I am joined right now by Fred Rosser. You know him from his work as Darren Young in WWE. He is currently working as one of the stars of New Japan Pro Wrestling, New Japan Strong. We're going to get into what he's up to currently, some past highlights, and I'll mention you are doing a live virtual signing today for 80s Wrestling Con. It's Monday Night Virtual. Talk a little bit about that too. But first off, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing well. First time back home on the East Coast of New Jersey, where I'm originally from, seeing family and doing a plethora of other projects. My name is Mr. No Days Off. It's just not a gimmick. It's a way of life that I encourage everyone, including yourself, to live by, on that grind, on that hustle, making moves daily.
So, as I mentioned, you are currently working for New Japan Pro Wrestling. One of the matches that just aired, if people want to follow along, it's New Japan Strong is the show. You teamed with Lio Rush against Bullet Club, and then you have a match coming up this week. May 21st is yourself and Hikuleo in a no DQ match. What's that experience been like for you so far? Because you're working in California. It's New Japan. It's a new brand. It's quite different from maybe what fans of yours are used to, just because of the cultural differences. But what's it been like working with Bullet Club and just branching out on your own and working under a completely different brand?
It's been an absolute dream come true. Ever since I started loving wrestling, since I came out the womb, it's always been WWF, but I've always followed New Japan. I've always followed the Japanese wrestling, but I've always been intimidated in the style. I never thought I could keep up or hang in with these guys. And it was actually September 2019, I ran into a friend, Lance Hoyt, Vance Archer, and I ran into him at an independent show, September 2019, and we came up in the developmental system with WWE, and he asked me how I was doing at the time. I said, yeah, I'm doing great, but I've always had dreams of doing New Japan. And November 2019, he told me to come to the Globe Theater in Los Angeles because New Japan was running a show. So the show started at 7 p.m. I got there at 5:30, got there early. At the time, 18 years in the business. I wanted to get there early and feel the ring, feel the atmosphere, meet everyone, because I needed to sit there throughout the entire show, watch the show, and see if I fit there, see if I belong there. And throughout the entire show, that was the one question that was going through my head. November 2019 at the New Japan show, do I fit in? Do I fit in? And when it was all said and done, I said to myself, man, what an awesome show. I can hang with these guys. I can go with these guys. So long story short, I talked to Rocky Romero and told him my desire to work for New Japan, to try out. I tried out with WWE years ago, and I earned my contract May 4th, 2009. At 36 years old at the time, I was willing to try out again, whatever it takes. And that was a conversation that went down November 2019, and then the pandemic hit. And right before the pandemic hit, I had did my first ever musical off Broadway. So January, February of 2020, I was in New York doing my first ever musical. Chris Jericho was a big inspiration in me doing the musical because of his stint on Dancing with the Stars and all of the other projects that he gets into. I said to myself when I was offered this musical in the beginning of 2020, I said, man, if he can do it, so can I. If he can do Dancing with the Stars, I can do this musical. So I did the musical January, February, and then the pandemic hit. And then Rocky Romero reached out to me May 2020 or so and told me about an opportunity with New Japan. And I said, Rocky, let me just double check with my family and see if it's a good idea, because I'm around family. I don't want to infect people at the time because COVID was rampant, as we all know. And my family ultimately blessed me and said, it sounds like a great opportunity, COVID compliant. Go for it. And I went for it. And 2020, I had match of the year with Tom Lawler. And I said, I say all the time, WWE was always a dream come true. And I did my thing. I did my thing as a Nexus member. I did my thing as a tag team wrestler with the Primetime Players. I tried to do my thing, make Darren Young great again with Bob Backlund. It's just unfortunate the people that work under Vince McMahon didn't have my back. So now at New Japan, I was kind of on my own and doing my thing. And to get match of the year with Tom Lawler was an incredible accomplishment for me. And, you know, the respect of the fans are amazing, but the respect of your peers is top priority. And Tom Lawler said about our match, he would have never thought that he would have gotten into the ring with someone like me. But he said the minute that we touched, he knew it was going to be a classic. He knew it was going to be good. So I've got to keep grinding away. You're only as good as your last match, you know. So this coming week, I've got Hikuleo. I love the Samoan Dynasty family. I love the Samoan family in general. The Usos, they've always been a night off to fight, you know, just easy guys to work with, all the Samoans. But Hikuleo has picked a fight with the Suntan Superman, and I've got to stay strong on New Japan Strong. And I've had enough of all of his bullying and all of, you know, him trying to bully me into silence. And my whole Block the Hate movement is so near and dear to my heart that this Friday, no disqualification with Hikuleo, he's leaving that building with 3 boots on, 2 on his feet and 1 in his ass, as a lifetime reminder of how badly Mr. No Days Off put a whooping on that ass.
I don't mean to downplay it at all, but you are known for being Mr. No Days Off, but you just said you enjoyed working with somebody because it felt like a night off. So is that the only time you would consider yourself taking a day off, or am I like I know I'm trying to reach here, but are there any people you enjoy working with that it really does feel like, you know, almost, you know, like a break where it's just you're in sync, you don't really have to work and it just kind of flows?
Exactly. Guys that I always bring up off the top of my head, Cesaro, Brody Lee, God rest his soul. Those are 2 guys that when I was in the ring with, it felt like a fight. They made me intimidated in the ring in a good way. You know what I mean? We were able to tell the best story as possible when I was working the Wyatts, or Cesaro and Tyson Kidd. You know, so those are 2 names that ring a bell. Brody and Cesaro are 2 guys that are just a night off and a joy to be in the ring with, and they elevate me. They highlight me. I've heard Shawn Michaels say to Devon Duntley years ago when I was an extra, yeah, you want to highlight their strengths and hide their weaknesses in your opponent. So that's the kind of layout that I like to take when I'm in the ring with anybody.
That kind of leads me into my next question. And I actually was going to ask it in the same way. So it's interesting, you know, that, you know, a lot of people take the highlight the strengths and hide the weaknesses approach, but you just shared that you're working on the Nexus documentary, proudly wearing your jacket, your New Japan gear. Is there anything you can talk about? Like maybe did they say when it's going to be out, what your involvement is other than just you filmed it?
Well, I was reached out to a couple weeks ago about this opportunity, and I always say, with anything in wrestling, if I would have done it for the money, I would have complained a long time ago. I do it for the love. I do it for the passion. I say on my podcast, don't die with a story and you tell it. And my most recent episode 72, I'm having a brain for, I believe it's episode 72, 71, the most recent episode of my podcast from Bro Wrestling that I do not for the numbers. I do the podcast because it's very therapeutic for me. It helps me become a better storyteller. It helps me become more comfortable being uncomfortable, speaking and sharing stories. So that's the only reason why I do the podcast, and it's therapeutic. So on my most recent episode of From Bro Wrestling, I really go into detail as to how it went, and it went great. I was told, and I go into detail, check it out on Pro Bro Wrestling, about how I was told to, if I could remove my New Japan jacket. And on Pro Bro Wrestling, check it out. I go into detail as to why I was very proud of this New Japan Pro Wrestling jacket. So definitely your audience, WrestleZone, definitely check it out on my podcast, Pro and Bro Wrestling, as I go into detail as to what my response was when I said, no, I'm very proud of this New Japan jacket. I'm not going to take it off.
If anybody wants to check it out, you can go on YouTube, check it out. Just search Pro and Bro Wrestling. The episode Fred just mentioned is up there. You also have interviews with Steve Cutler, David Marquez. There's some a lot of other interviews. You have Matt McCarthy, who I'm familiar with, Danny Limelight. So plenty of great stuff up there. People want to focus on what went wrong with Nexus and why they should have won this match, and talk about it in that context. So what I want to know is what went right with the group. How did you benefit from it? How did everyone benefit from it? I mean, you can talk about in hindsight, people have fond memories of the group, how it shook things up, but what would you say is, the benefit, the positive of the group for you individually and maybe as a collective?
Well, my boy Heath Slater, he said it the best. If they were to bring the Nexus back, he says it just like this: we ain't young punk kids anymore. We grown ass man. And he's right. We're not young punk kids anymore. We're grown men. And at the time when the Nexus caused havoc, I wasn't comfortable with myself at all. And I mentioned it on the Nexus documentary. The original season of NXT that I was on with the game is like a game show. I hated it. I hated it. Hated it. Hated it. Hated it. That's how I said it on the documentary. I hated it. It was like a game show. If I wanted to do American Gladiators, I would have done American Gladiators or American Ninja Warrior. But what NXT is today it's incredible. I wish I could come back to NXT and work their style currently, and I could definitely hang with the boys, but when we did the Nexus, I just wasn't comfortable with myself. I wasn't out to the world, I wasn't out to myself. I was very closeted. And I always say I think we all have those inner blocks, those inner blocks that we we block and we block and we block. And I had those inner blocks in the Nexus. But I realized once I came out publicly to the world that once you unlock those hidden blocks, you get access to so much cool stuff, And when I was able to come out publicly, I was just able to be me. I was able to be myself, So during the Nexus documentary, I said I was never comfortable with myself. I was never comfortable on the mic. I say it now, I'm not a promo guy, I can get through a promo, but I'm not like The Rock or anyone else. I can strive to be The Rock at this point in my career. I just have to be me. As a kid, I had a stuttering problem, Sometimes it comes and go. As a 37-year-old adult, I embrace it. I don't really care. What you see is what you get, But from causing havoc, that's history that'll never be erased. And the connections that I made with a lot of the guys, Heath Slater, Tarver, Ryback, Wade, all those guys, I love them. I love them to death. And we're still on a text thread, and I'm always sending disturbing movies, and they're like, Freddie, what the hell you sending us? And I just send them disturbing stuff because Vince McMahon always said in promo class, never be afraid to make a fool of yourself. And that's how I live my life.
I absolutely love that attitude. I can't wait to see the project whenever we get a chance to see it.
Well, it should be. I mean, the Nexus debuted, I guess last year was 10-year anniversary. This year's 11 years. I think we did the dirty work in June, so maybe it'll be in June sometime. We'll see. But
there
I
you
know
go.
I know at the time they got Wade Barrett, they got Daniel Bryan, which we consider him not a member of the Nexus because he got fired that night. He didn't cause havoc after that night that we caused havoc. So Wade Barrett doesn't consider him original member of the Nexus. That is the law.
Who's going to argue with Wade Barrett, right?
I love him. I love him.
And who's going to argue with the rest of the group and put a beat down on everybody, yeah. Right?
Exactly.
You mentioned real quick, you mentioned that you'd love a shot at NXT again. You did actually get a second shot at NXT when it was NXT Redemption. What I mean, what was that experience like for you? Because you spent time, you know, on different shows in the WWE universe. I was going to call it world. Silly me. You spent time on Raw, and you had this big run. What was that experience going back to Redemption? Because it wasn't the NXT that people know now, and it wasn't even the NXT that for a time TJ Wilson, Tyson Kidd went back for a spell. Tyler Breeze went back, like Fandango and Fashion Police are back there now. But it wasn't it wasn't it wasn't the brand that it is now, where people could just move laterally. It was still very much a competition show. So what was the, I guess, motivation for you going back there? Like, what were you trying to prove that time around?
With NXT Redemption, I was slowly but surely getting my groove, getting comfortable with being on the WWE product and all that stuff. I mean, just having the opportunity alone. Like, I'm not a football player that played pro football or any kind of football and then just jump right into WWE. I grinded on the minor league level, the independents from 2003 to 2009. WWE told me no over 40 times until May 4th, 2009. Out of 75 guys and girls from all over the world, I earned my contract with WWE. So it was a dream come true for me. So any opportunity I get, like, for example, my last independent wrestling match before I got signed was against Big Daddy V. And we didn't really talk about our match until very late. But I just knew to roll with him, And after it was all
Mm-hmm.
said and done, Big Daddy V said, "You know what, boy, you're going to be up on the road within 8 months." And this was right after I got signed, and he was right. I was on the road within 8 months, less than a year, on the original season of NXT. Went through my ups and downs. Did NXT Redemption. Uh, did the primetime players. Did make Darren Young great again. So I can never talk down about my experiences, because we're in the entertainment business. So our futures are controlled by the pencil. They can pencil you in and erase you out. And Dr. Tom Pritchard said it the best. He was a scout of mine when I first started. He said, sometimes in this business, you're going to have to eat shit and like the taste of it. And when I first started, I'm like, I'm saying to myself, I didn't say it to Dr. Tom Pritchard. I said to myself, eat shit and like the taste of it. You don't know what you're talking about, Doc. But he was right. He was right. He was right. Sometimes in this business, you're going to have to eat shit and like the taste of it. And I didn't get signed by WWE because I do all the flips and all that stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. I got signed by WWE because of my work ethic. I got signed by WWE because I'm a great storyteller. I'm very believable. So those are the reasons why I got signed with WWE. And like I said, it's always been a dream come true. And any experience with WWE is a good experience for me, in my opinion. And a lot of fans will say, "Oh, we wish you were the tag team champions more." Well, whether we were 10 times, 5 times, or just that one time, Titus and I still did it. And for us, it's in their history books as being tag team champions. So that's on my portfolio of the other projects that I do.
Mm-hmm. And as we started talking about, you're still being featured for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Real quick plug: if anybody wants to watch the show, one of the places you can watch it is Fight. Just look on the New Japan Pro Wrestling channel. Fred's on the poster for the latest episode, the LA Dojo Showcase. There's, I think the archives go back over a year, but you can check that out on Fight. One of the things that is, I'm going to say, in the honeymoon phase is the relationship between Impact and New Japan. You're seeing ELP being featured on the show right now, FinJuice. So there is that New Japan Impact crossover. Is that something that would interest you, going over as a New Japan talent? Just because if you think about it, you're still in the United States, so travel from the West Coast to Nashville, would be a little easier. Is that something that you'd throw your hat into potentially down the line?
Well, I have no control over that. I can put my 2 cents in. But September 11th, 2002 will be 19 years that I've been rocking and rolling, wrestling consistently. And quality over quantity at this point in my life, you know what I mean? So I say all the time, and this is me speaking from my heart, it's very important for me to just stay in my own lane. With AEW, WWE, they said no over 40 times. AEW, they said no, not once, but twice. But, in all actuality, my all-in goal was New Japan. And I pursued New Japan with laser-like focus, like a madman. And I got what I want by being consistent, because without commitment, you'll never start. But most importantly, without consistency, you'll never finish. You have to be consistent if you want to cross that finish line. So yeah, absolutely. Impact is an option. I don't set myself, I don't limit myself to anything at this point in my career. I'm an independent contractor, but right now I don't want to overload myself. I rather just focus with New Japan. And I've been doing some work with NWA. But right now, I just want to focus on New Japan, because New Japan is my heart and soul. I say to myself, I feel like I'm the Black Tommy Dreamer of New Japan Strong. Tommy Dreamer in ECW, he was like the heart and soul of the promotion. That's how I feel with New Japan Strong. So again, I've got to stay in my own lane, because the minute I get out of my lane, that's how we all get into accidents and all that stuff. And again,
you were talking about, focusing on New Japan and how you're staying in your lane. I was gonna close by saying you've been working primarily in California for New Japan. Hopefully we can get, depending on what happens with travel restrictions being lifted and whatnot, like see you working in Japan. I know that is a big bucket list item for a lot of people. So,
it's number one for me. Working in New Japan, in Japan is still a bucket list of mine. I'm just praying, August, hopefully we can run shows in California with an audience. That's the goal. And hopefully by the end of the year, I can get out for the first time ever to Japan and wrestle, because with WWE, anytime we did a tour of Japan, I was always on a different tour or not on tour at all. So I have not physically competed in Japan. So that's my big test, And not only is that a big test, but that big test of performing in front of a New Japan crowd, because I haven't performed in front of a New Japan crowd yet, So that's the true test. And I'm either going to shit the bed, or these people are going to like what I'm delivering. And obviously they are, because to me, it's special to have match of the year and have between, I heard 15 to 20,000 fans vote for your match to be match of the year with New Japan Strong. So again, it's very clear that I'm staying in my lane. Impact is great. AEW is great, even though they told me no, not once, not but twice, I always say. But New Japan is my home, and I'm very happy with my home with New Japan Strong. So hopefully I can work with the likes of Tanahashi, Kota, Shingo, plethora of other guys. Will Ospreay is another bucket list guy that I want to compete against. And I know I can go with these guys. It's just only a matter of time before I go to Japan.
Well, I wish you the best. I hope August is when you get to do that. In the meantime, you guys can check out Fred. As I said, the Monday Night Virtual signing tonight. May 21st, he has his no disqualification match against Hikuleo on New Japan Strong. You can check that out on Fight. Check out the Pro and Bro podcast. Fred, thanks very much for your time today, and I wish you the best of luck with your continued success in New Japan.
Thank you. I always say don't die with the story you tell, and thank you for letting me share my story.